how do we push back against, it's just been such a discussion, such a debate, especially on the right, like what our role is if we feel like someone is making a false accusation or is pushing a theory that is just not founded in reality. What is our role as Christians to speak up against that?
I think the same thing the Apostle Paul did. The Apostle Paul spoke up against false teachers and heresies. And it's interesting to me, Allie, that both Jesus and New Testament writers refer to Satan as a murderer, a liar, slanderer, and accuser. We had a murder, and then what did we have that followed it? Lies, accusations, and slander. Wow. This is spiritual warfare.
Right.
And right now, I don't know her motives, but Candace Owens is on the wrong side of this because she's slandering people, she's accusing people, she's lying. She said, "Oh, if Erica asked me to stop, I'll stop." She hadn't stopped. She's still doing it. So I think what we need to do is, as we're doing, and I don't know if you saw Ben Shapiro here the other night, but he was very clear to call out that this is wrong. And he's not even a Christian. He's just saying we have to deal in truth here. And when we're accusing people of murder, you better have some really good evidence if you're going to do that, and she doesn't.
Yeah. So I guess that's your answer to those who say, well, she's the only one asking questions. This is how investigations go. We have to pursue every lead, make sure every stone is turned over. What do you say to people who say that?
I will say you can ask questions, but not the complex question. The complex question is something like you ask a man, when did you stop beating your wife? There's an assumption behind the question. Oh, he's a wife beater, right? This appears to be what Candace is often doing. Why did Mikey turn away immediately and get on his phone? Oh, he must be up to something bad. No, he was doing exactly what Charlie told him to do. And you have had some very eloquent podcasts on this. You've talked about the right way to deal with this. And I think people ought to look into that. And I also want to mention, for people that don't know, I have a friend, J. Warner Wallace, a cold case homicide detective. I had him on my podcast twice to talk about this. He points out that the prosecution is not going to reveal the evidence that they have or even what they're doing, because if they do, they're going to jeopardize the case. Why are they going to jeopardize the case? If they say, for example, they're looking into a second shooter, they don't know if somebody comes forward and says, oh, I saw the second shooter, whether that guy really saw the second shooter or he is just trying to make a name for himself, right? Or if they say, we have witness X. They don't want to tell you they have witness X, because what is the media going to do and the defense going to do? They're going to go after witness X. In fact, I think this happened in the O.J. Simpson trial, if I'm not mistaken. There was a woman who saw O.J. leaving the scene, and the prosecution made it known that she was a witness. She wound up selling her story to a media outlet, and then she was invalid as a witness because she had been bought off, they say.
Wow.
So the prosecution is not going to tell you what they're doing. I know they're checking into conspiracy theories. Why? Because I was the subject of one of them. The guy in the white hat, the stupid white hat theory you heard about. I was signaling the shooter. They called me on that.
Yeah.
The FBI said, were you signaling the shooter? I said, yeah, I was telling him to steal second base. Like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, what? It makes no sense. You don't need to signal anyone. The guy knows who Charlie Kirk is.
Yeah.
He's the guy under the tent with the microphone. It's ridiculous, but people believe
But it does go to show that, because a lot of people have said, why isn't the FBI doing this? Why aren't they asking this person? I don't think that we are privy to all of the things that the authorities are doing. Not saying that we should blindly trust any government institution or any institution at all, but what you're saying is you did get called, even though it's a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
They did call you.
Yes, and by the way, the FBI is not the lead. The Utah police are. Now, I would be more skeptical if the Biden DOJ was in charge and we were in, say, California and we had a liberal DA. I would be even more skeptical. But we're in red Utah. There's a Republican there, and of course, Dan Bongino, who's now left, but the Kash Patel, they're all friends of Charlie. So I don't think they're going to fudge anything. And all this is going to come out at trial anyway, so we have to wait for the trial. Not that we can't ask questions, but the questions are not going to be answered by the prosecution now, because they'll taint the jury, they'll jeopardize their case, they have to be very methodical and hold their cards close to the vest, and anybody that's done a prosecution, particularly a murder trial, will tell you this is the way they do it.
Yeah. Are you surprised at how divided we have become over Israel?
It is a little odd, but let me just say that Jew hatred is not a conservative value. So why would we want to be conserving Jew hatred to begin with? If you hate Jews, I don't consider yourself a conservative. Or I wouldn't consider yourself a conservative because you're not conserving what is good, right, and true. So I don't know why, other than this is more spiritual warfare, we're getting people in saying, oh, I voted for Trump, but I hate Jews or I hate Israel.
So what do you say to the people who say, well, I don't hate Jews, I don't hate Israel, I just think that we're taking too much money from AIPAC and I just want to criticize Israel, it's not Jew hatred?
That's fine, you can criticize Israel, but I always ask people who say that, have you read the Hamas Charter? And they always say no. Except I had one guy today that proved me wrong, said yes.
Tell us what it is.
The Hamas Charter basically says that the only way forward is to kill Jews. Jihad is the only way. And they say in there that all these conferences to have a two-state solution are a waste of time because they don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution. From the river to the sea means all the Jews are dead, we get the land.
Right.
And the two-state solution really was set up by Winston Churchill way back after World War I. It's the country of Jordan. But Jordan does not want the Palestinians because many of them are jihadists. Egypt doesn't want them either. They're jihadists. So if their own people don't want them, I have a question. Why would Israel want them?
Right.
Right? Also, this is, not many people really think about this very often, but people will always say, well, we can't bless Israel because they're apostate. You hear this all the time, right? Well, bless doesn't mean you agree with people on everything. Bless means you tell them where they're wrong. As the proverb says, watch the kisses of an enemy, but the wounds of a friend are good. We don't rubber stamp everything Israel does. And newsflash, the entire Old Testament Israel was apostate. Every king was a bad king. There was only a couple on the southern kingdom that were good. They're all apostate. God will deal with them. We're supposed to look out for the Jews and Israel, but that doesn't mean we have to agree with them on everything.
And of course, we want all people to be saved through Christ.
Of course.
And so we share the gospel
Yes.
with everyone. Okay, this is the dividing issue, though, on the right and even among some Christians. So going forward, what does it look like? Do we find consensus on the issue? Are we trying to change people's minds? Do we kind of push it to the side as non-fundamental? What do you think it looks like?
You mean Israel?
Yes.
I think we just speak the truth and live the results to God. We're not going to bow down and say that Israel isn't a friend of the U.S. It generally is a friend of the U.S. And think about this. Israel has a landmass that is about 700, let me put it another way. The Muslim countries around Israel, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, have a landmass 700 times the size of Israel. And Israel is supposed to give up land?
Right.
Hello? Why? I don't understand. It has nothing to do with fairness.